Hello there, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to our webinar today, all about shared parental pay in Sage 50 Payroll. This is one of the sessions that counts towards our statutory payments badge. So if you have attended other sessions in this series, plus the quiz that we're running again this Friday, you will qualify for a digital badge, and I'll tell you more about how you get that later on in today's session. So my name's Duncan, I'm your host and presenter, and I am joined today by my colleague Alice, who's there in the background, ready and waiting to answer any questions. Let's now take a look at what we're going to cover in the webinar. So I'll start with a brief introduction to shared parental leave and pay, outlining some of the legislation and eligibility to get the payment and the process for employees that intend to take shared parental leave and any documentation that they would need to complete. We're then going to take a look at how you would process it in your payroll. So we'll look at the process to set up shared parental pay, and we'll do that from the point of view of a partner taking shared leave and the main adopter or mother taking the leave. We'll look at how that fits into the rest of your payroll process, and we'll give you a reminder on adjusting other payments by either using Makeup Basic or doing manual adjustments. And we'll explain how this payment can be reclaimed at the end of the tax month, works in much the same way as other parental payments. At the end, I'll run you through some further support, tell you more about the digital badge and what else we've got coming up in the near future, plus a chance for you to ask any final questions and get those answered in the Q&A. So let's get on with our introduction to shared parental leave and pay. So starting with a couple of abbreviations, SPL stands for shared parental leave. And this is an entitlement of up to 50 weeks that can be shared among the parents of a baby or a child who has been adopted. The paid element of that, shared parental pay or SHPP, can be paid for up to 37 weeks. And that's at the point that the mother or main adopter chooses to end officially their maternity or adoption leave. Now, the way that this works is that mothers or adopters choose to end maternity or adoption leave early, and then they would then be able to share the remaining week's pay and leave with their partner. Now, we are going to focus mainly on pay for today's webinar because we're going to be showing you how to put this through your payroll, but it works in much the same way for the leave in that it can be shared out with whatever is remaining. Now, in the case of a mother, they do need to take at least 2 weeks after the baby's birth of maternity leave. So that's why the entitlement is an up to value. So assuming the mother started their maternity leave on the day the baby was born, they could take 2 weeks, the mandatory 2 weeks of maternity leave, and then switch on to shared parental leave. And that's why there are 50 weeks of leave remaining or 37 weeks of pay. But in practice, a lot of people will tend to start their maternity leave a little bit before the baby is born. So it is whatever's remaining in the entitlement that can be shared. And a quick note, shared parental pay has replaced additional statutory paternity pay that was available prior to April 2015. A quick look then at the eligibility criteria. And as a general rule of thumb, employees will be eligible for shared parental pay if one of the following applies. So in the case of a mother or adopter, if they were eligible for statutory maternity pay or statutory adoption pay, they would also meet the eligibility criteria to be eligible for shared parental pay. For a partner, if they're eligible for statutory paternity pay or statutory paternity pay for adoption, and their partner was eligible for SMP, maternity allowance, or SAP, then they would then qualify for the shared parental pay as well. Now, it is paid at the standard rate for parental payments, which is currently £184.03 per week, or 90% of average weekly earnings, whichever is lower. That applies for leave taken in the 24 to 25 tax year, and it is due to increase in the new tax year to £187.18 per week. And that new rate would kick in automatically, assuming you've installed the year-end update which will be released in the coming weeks. So let's move on now and talk about how employees get shared parental pay. So a few things need to happen. The mother or adopter must officially end their SMP or SAP and return to work, or take the shared leave if that's what they intend to do, or they must have given binding notice of the date that they'll do this. So binding notice is usually something that can't be reversed. Both parents do need to give the right amount of notice, so that's at least 8 weeks written notice of their entitlement to the leave and pay and their intention to take it. And then it is down to the parents to tell their respective employers how they intend to share their leave and pay. Now, in terms of giving this notice and completing the documentation, there is a suite of forms and templates available on the ACAS website, which I have linked to on your handout, on this slide of the handout. You can download forms for the employees to use. So I'll just show you the page I'm referring to. So it's the shared parental leave forms and templates for parents from ACAS. So in the case of maternity, they can download a form that they would fill in and give to their employer. Similar forms for adoption and surrogacy. There are templates if they're notifying you of when the leave will be taken, so booking the shared parental leave, and also if they need to cancel or change the leave. And also on this page, some handy templates for employers as well. So letter templates that you can use to write back to your employees if and when you need to deal with shared parental pay and leave. So some quite useful links there from ACAS, and of course I have linked to that there in the handout. So when it comes to taking the leave, paid or not, each parent has the right to take up to 3 separate blocks of leave. So it doesn't have to be taken continuously like it would have to for maternity or adoption. And because it's shared, it could be taken at different times to the other parent, or they could actually be on leave at the same time, taking shared parental leave and pay as at the same time as their partner. So there could be periods of time where they're both off receiving this payment. So I'll just run through a few examples of how the shared parental leave could be taken. So starting with the traditional look, usually mother or adopter, if they're just taking maternity or adoption leave, would have 39 weeks of paid leave. Often starts before, well, it will start before the baby is born, and it would run continuously. So 39 weeks of pay, 52 weeks of actual leave. The partner would take their paternity leave and receive statutory paternity pay. That can now be taken as separate blocks after the baby is born. So separate blocks of 1 week or 2 continuous blocks. Any shared parental pay and leave would come after the statutory paternity pay. So if they do decide they're going to share some of this, the mother or adopter would officially end their maternity leave. And at this point, they could just pass over the remaining leave and pay to their partner, as in this example, who would then take the rest of the entitlement as shared parental leave and pay. As mentioned, they could take some together. So they've given the notice of when the maternity will end. There could be a period of time then where the leave is being shared at the same time, and then maybe the mother comes back to work, the partner takes the remainder of the leave. It could be as a continuous block, or they can choose to take it as separate blocks and intersperse this perhaps with some annual leave that they might have accrued. So another example there of how the shared entitlement could be taken. One thing to keep in mind is that it must be taken by the baby's first birthday or within 1 year of the adoption date. So although it can be split into blocks, there is a time limit of when it needs to be taken. So what we're going to do now is put that into practice, and I'm going to give you an example of setting up shared parental pay, and we will look at both a partner and a mother in this case, very similar steps for the main adopter. So I'm just going to bring these slides down as we jump into a demo. So my employee in this example has filled in the form for maternity, and I'm just going to show you the form that they filled in. So I've got this on screen. So they download it as a Word document, then they can fill in the appropriate forms depending on which of the parents intend to take the shared parental leave. So on the first page here, kind of explains which forms need to be filled in. So both of them are taking it. It's 1, 2, and 4. If just the birth payment is taking shared parental leave, it's forms 1 and 2. And if it was just the partner, it would be forms 1, 3, and 4. Now, in the first example I'm going to show you, we're going to set it up for a partner that we employ, and they're going to be taking over some remaining leave and pay from the mother who's returning to work a little earlier. So it is forms 1, 3, and 4 that need to be filled in, but then these forms go to the respective employers. So you don't have to employ both of the parents. You would only get the form that relates to your employee, but it is a signed declaration, and you will provide details of the partner in your submission when you process this payment. So the way that this has been filled in is that form number 1 is notice that the mother is curtailing her maternity leave and pay. So she's ending the SMP early. So there are details on this form about when the baby was due and born, when the statutory maternity leave and pay had been taken or will be taken. So in this case, 33 weeks was taken by the mother. They have then signed that form, and that goes to the employer of the birth parent or mother, letting them know that SMP will be ending early. Now, form number 2 in this example isn't required because the birth parent in this case is not intending to take SPL, so that one doesn't need to be filled in at all. But form number 3 does, which is notice confirming that the partner will be taking the shared leave, but the birth parent or mother is not. So this again goes to the birth parent's employer, just confirming that I won't be taking the SPL, my partner will. That then leads us on to form number 4, and this is actually the form that we would get as the partner's employer. So it's got similar information about the original leave, so when the baby was due, when it was born, when the maternity entitlement was taken, and the maternity pay. And it confirms how many weeks are available to share. So we've got 6 weeks of SMP that were remaining, and 19 weeks of leave that's remaining to share. So in this section, the partner is saying that I intend to take 6 weeks of leave. So they're just taking the remainder of the paid amount, and they've specified the dates that they want to take that leave. It's exactly the same information in this example for the pay. So they're taking the remaining 6 weeks of paid leave, and then a couple of declarations. So signed declaration by the partner and the birth parent, and that's the paperwork that you will need to set everything up. And this was all given to the employer more than 8 weeks before when they intend to take it. So we can now use this information to set this up in Payroll. So first thing I'm going to do is I will select the employee who is taking shared parental pay and leave. You then open the employee record. So there's no quick link to record this type of parental absence. You do need to do it in the employee record. So you go to the absence tab, just here, and then you need to go to the section that relates to the original statutory payment. So our employee originally received SPP, the paternity pay. So we're going to go into this section of the record, and we can actually see baby arrival dates, which match up with what was on the form, and the fact that he took 2 weeks of paternity leave back in June. So he all qualified for that. He's taken that full entitlement, and they're now asking to take the shared parental leave and pay. So we're dealing with the pay. So what we need to do is to click this button for shared parental pay. You then indicate that you've received the declaration And then from that declaration, we know that the number of weeks of paid leave available was 6. And we know that this parent intends to take all 6 of those weeks. So it's just these first 2 boxes that you fill in, because the number of weeks recorded will populate automatically when we record the dates of leave on the diary. What we then need to do is to provide the partner details, which again, were on the form. And that information will be included in our FPS when we submit to HMRC. And if I click OK again to save the details I've entered, and then go ahead and save the employee record. So that has now established the entitlement of 6 weeks of shared parental pay. And all we then need to do is to record the dates of absence on the absence diary. So this is a bit like recording sickness. So you do need to do some diary entries, which you can do by clicking the diary entry button. You would choose the absence type, so it falls in the other category. And if you scroll all the way down, you'll find shared parental. And then it's a case of recording the dates. So in my example, it was the 20th of January that it was starting. And that was running through until the 2nd of March. You can enter any comments that you might want to record. And you can see that it has recorded the diary entries, which I'm just going to go ahead and save. It uses the letter R to signify shared parental. And you might have noticed that currently the diary entries are in lowercase. And this means that it's current absence, it's not historical. But once we've completed the pay run, any dates that have already been paid will then change to capital letters, similar to how it works with sick pay, to indicate that that is then historical. So that's now set up. If I was to go back into SPP and click the shared parental pay option, you'll see that the number of weeks recorded is now reading 6. So that date range that I've just put on the absence diary is the full 6 weeks that they're going to be paid for. So that's now set up for an employee who's the partner of a lady who's been on maternity leave. We're going to show you the other example where we employ the mother in this case. They have decided that they are ending their maternity leave early, and they're going to share some remaining leave with their partner, who happens to work for another employer. So we would get the appropriate forms from them, the ones that go to the birth parent's employer, and then we would go ahead and enter the details in their record. So it's employee 4 in this example. And we go to the absence tab, just like we did before. And then we go to the original statutory payment, which in this case was SMP. It was maternity pay. And first of all, you do need to ensure that you've recorded the born on date. So that's already been recorded for me. Baby was born on the 2nd of December. They do have that mandatory period of 2 weeks of maternity leave they have to take before they can switch to shared, which they've already done. And they are choosing to switch over to the shared entitlement after 6 weeks of leave. So in this example, if they were returning to work, if they weren't taking the shared leave, it would be on the 6th of January. So that's what I'm going to enter as the return to work date. And it just means in this section at the bottom, shared parental pay, it's now showing that there were 33 paid weeks remaining. And that would be the total of the pay that was remaining from their maternity entitlement. And by entering that return to work date, you can see that the SMP entitlement has now 6 weeks. So they've taken the 6 weeks at higher rate, basically, and they're intending to share the remaining 33 weeks. So we then go into shared parental pay to tick the box saying we've received the declaration. We already know the number of weeks available because we dealt with the maternity pay, so that was 33. But on the form we were given, it says that they are going to take 13 of those weeks, and you can assume that the partner is going to be taking the 20, the other 20. So we're just putting the 13 that this employee is taken. We will enter these details for the partner, then click OK. And we've now set up an entitlement of 13 weeks. And just like before, it's a case of recording those dates on the absence diary. Now, you may not know exactly when they're going to take all of this leave because they have got up to the baby's first birthday to take it. So you can add these diary entries whenever you're ready to. Just so happens that this employee is going to take it as a continuous block, directly following on from her maternity leave. So she's going to start the shared leave on the 6th of January, and the 13 weeks is actually going to end on the 6th of April. So she's effectively taken 3 months of the shared leave, and then she's going to come back to work after that. So I could use diary entry to record this, but this time I've selected the dates on the diary. So I've got the date range here at the top, and you can also record it if you right click, go to custom, go to absence, shared parental, and then if you click full day, put a comment in if you want. And again, that's recorded the absence on the diary. So just checking that that's all recorded correctly. If I go back to SMP and shared parental pay, I can see that I have recorded the 13 weeks that this employee will be taking. So that is how it is set up. I want to just give you a recap of this process. So first of all, from the mother or adopter, the one that we've just seen, you would need to ensure that you have entered the SMP or SAP return to work date, as well as the baby's born on date, if that wasn't already recorded. For the partner, it's just a case of going into the SPP or SPPA for adoption and checking that those details in relation to the child have already been entered. You would then enter the shared paternity pay details. So that's the box to tick to say you've received the declaration. You confirm the entitlement that was available to share, so the weeks available and the weeks being taken by your employee. And of course, you need to enter the partner details so they can also be submitted to HMRC. Once that bit has been set up against the original statutory payment, you would then record the dates of the absence. So that's done on the absence diary. So it can be done in the employee record. It can also be done in enter payments from the SSP parental leave tab, which we'll see in a moment. So make sure it's the shared parental type of absence, and you enter the from and to dates, and that will then update the number of weeks recorded in the employee record. I've got the full step-by-step for you available on the links on the handout. So what you would then do is you would process the shared parental pay. So this works much the same way as other statutory payments. So start by setting your process date to the next pay date. And keep in mind that the statutory pay will calculate up to that process date. You can check the shared parental pay amount. So you can see a breakdown of that on the SSP parental leave tab. And then your third step is to make any necessary adjustments to other payments. So this is where things like Make Up Basic might come into play if you've got a policy to top up the shared parental pay up to the full basic, or you may need to do a manual adjustment to manually reduce the amount of basic pay. So let's complete our demo by processing our SHPP. So first of all, I'll check my process date. So a little bit late on this one, but I'm running my 31st of January payroll. So that's what I've got set here. Let's just select the 2 employees that we set the payment up for and go into the Enter Payment screen. Now, the employee's usual salary is currently entered on the Payments tab, so I am going to come back and do an adjustment to that. But let's check the Shared Parental Pay first. So SSP Parental Leave is where you can see the amount payable and how many weeks that equates to. So between the start of the leave and my current process date, there's a week and 5 days, or 1.714 weeks. And the amount payable is determined by the standard rate, so 184.03 per week. You can also see the total on the summary. So we've got our shared parental pay here. And then you would need to decide how to make the adjustment to the basic. So if I wanted to make up to basic, if I've agreed with the employee to pay them their full basic while they're on this leave, I can enter the full salary in the usual place, like so. And then on the summary tab, I can click Make Up Basic. That then prompts us to make an adjustment to a payment. So you'll have seen this in our maternity and paternity sessions if you've been to them. If I click Yes to continue, see it automatically reduces the basic by the amount of statutory pay. So it's done that by adjusting the hours or number value. Or if you don't have a company scheme, so there's no agreement to top that up, we would just need to work out how much to pay them for the days or hours they have worked in this period, and then enter that manually calculated value on the payments. So the way that I'm going to do it in this example is I want to pay them for 13 days that they've worked this month out of a possible 23 working days. So I'm going to make an adjustment to the hours or number, 13 divided by 23. And this is what I want to pay them for the days they've worked. So that's just one example of how you could calculate a part period salary. Other ways would include calculating a daily rate based on the annual salary and then multiplying that by the number of days. You'll have your own policy and procedure on doing this, so do follow those rules and just remain consistent in the way that you do this. So I now have salary for the days they've worked, statutory shared parental pay being paid on top of that, the usual deductions, and the employee's total net pay. Moving on to the next employee. So they were on maternity leave, and I don't have a company maternity policy in this example, so I haven't been paying them any salary up until now. Looking at the summary tab, I can see they have their remainder of their SMP. So they had just short of a week, I think, that was due to be paid up until the 5th of January. And then the shared parental pay kicks in after that. So if I want to see a breakdown of that value, I can see that that equates to 3.714 weeks between the 6th of January and the end of the month. So I'm not going to make any adjustments to the salary, so I'm not making up to basic, don't have any other payments I want to pay them. They're just going to receive their maternity pay and parental pay this month. And when I save these payments, it's just informing me about a tax refund and also letting me know that I have paid more than one statutory payment this period, which is absolutely fine. They're not overlapping. One follows on from the other. So we can safely close that message. So quick look at some of the reports. I will just show you a standard payslip. So for my first employee, I have paid them some salary for this month, and the parental pay, in this case shared parental pay, is shown separately. And then for the second employee, it just shows us the total parental pay. So that is made up of some maternity and some shared parental, gives them that total amount, and then the employee's net pay in the usual place. It appears in the parental payments column on payment summaries. So exactly the same as maternity and paternity. So you can see these parental payments are all lumped together in this case. And when we get to the end of the tax month, we'll be able to reclaim our statutory payment on our P32 report, which I will show you in the last section of the webinar. So once you've printed or produced your pre-update reports, you would update the records in the usual way. You would do your full payment submission. So this will include the partner details. So HMRC have a record of that. And once your payroll is complete, if we just check the absence entries, can you see they've gone to uppercase for what is now historical information? So that's already been paid, but the remainder of this will be paid in the upcoming pay runs. And exactly the same for the partner. We've got our shared parental pay showing like so. So that is processing shared parental pay. We're just going to finish with a quick note on reclaiming statutory payments. So the reclaim for this works in exactly the same way as maternity, paternity, adoption, and all other parental payments. The only statutory payment you cannot reclaim is statutory sick pay. So that one is fully funded by the employer, but parental payments can be claimed back. Most employers will reclaim 92% of the statutory payment made. But if you qualify for small employers relief, you can currently reclaim 103% of the statutory payment. And we've recently found out that that will increase to 108.5% in the new tax year. Now, to qualify for the small employers relief, you would need to have total national insurance contributions of £45,000 or less in the tax year prior to the qualifying or matching week. And if you do qualify for that relief, it's really important that you've checked that you've ticked the box that you're eligible for small employers relief, and that is found within the company settings. So you can read more on small employers relief and how to check whether you qualify following the link. But when it gets to the end of the tax month and you've completed payrolls for that month, you would run your P32 in the usual way. So this is what tells you how much you need to pay to HMRC. And the amounts reclaimed effectively reduce the amount you have to pay by offsetting it against the tax and the national insurance that you deducted from your employees. So shared parental pay specifically is shown in items 10 and 11 on the P32. And if you have any reclaim like this at the end of each tax month, you must send an employer payment summary, it's an EPS, as that will then report the amounts you've reclaimed so that HMRC will be expecting the correct payment due. So you have until the 19th of the following calendar month in order to make that submission. So similar to when you would make the payment. So last demo, will just to show you the P32 and EPS. So I have completed all payrolls for tax month 10. So everyone's paid on the same date and they're all paid monthly. To run the P32 report, you will find a quick link. If you're on the payroll tasks, have a look in this link section. You'll see P32 report just here. I'm running it for tax month 10 in this example. So that's what I've got in the criteria. And then this is our P32. So tax and national insurance that I'm due to pay over. And then we have some items that we're reclaiming. So a little bit of maternity pay that we paid this month, plus the NI compensation as a small employer. So that comes to 103% of what I paid out altogether. And the shared parental pay is reclaimed in exactly the same way. So the payment I need to make is this amount at the bottom, and that has already had the reclaim taken off of it. So what I now need to do is submit my EPS. So again, there is a quick link to it in the payroll links, employer payment summary, or you can do it from the e-submissions tasks, employer payment summary here. So I'm adjusting the payment as I've recovered statutory pay. It's for tax month 10. These are year-to-date values. So you can see previous maternity pay and paternity pay that I've claimed in this tax year. So it always sends the year-to-date total as part of the EPS. CIS deductions suffered are not applicable for this one. I don't pay apprenticeship levy either. And once you complete that wizard, that takes you into the submission. So this is a monthly submission, even if your payroll is weekly. You do this once a month at the end of each tax month. Got your gateway registration details, etc. Summary of the information being sent. And then you would go ahead and click submit. So that submission has now been successful, and it just means that HMRC now have all the information they need to calculate how much we will be paying over at the end of the month. So that is reclaiming the statutory payment. And that brings us to the end of what we're going to cover in today's webinar. So before you go, I do want to quickly run through some of the further support and tell you a bit more about the digital badge. So the statutory payments badge has been running since the end of January, and to qualify for the badge, you needed to attend at least 4 different webinars in our statutory payments series, plus the statutory payments quiz, which we are running this Friday at 10 a.m. You do need to attend live, and you need to have registered with the same email address for all of those sessions to qualify for the badge, and we will send you the badge by the end of the month by email, and you can learn more about how you get that at the quiz session. So the remaining ones we've got for this badge is HR advice, parental leave unpacked. So a really interesting session with special guests from HR Advisor Plus. That's tomorrow at 11 a.m. And we have the quiz on Friday at 10, as I say, a fun way to test your knowledge based on all of the sessions that we've been running. Just for fun, but you do need to turn up to that one to get your badge. Also coming up this month, we have an HR showcase about timesheets module. So if you want to look at that and see how that might help you if you deal with timesheets, we're running that one. Get your payroll done, all around processing your payroll if you're a beginner or you want a refresher on how that works. Minimum wage check, introduction to payroll benefits, and getting your payroll done at month end. So more information about what happens at the end of the month and how to claim employment allowance, which is a bit of a hot topic moving into the new year. Other support is available from our help centre online at sage.co.uk/help. You can find the same content in product by clicking any of our help icons. And Sage University is a fantastic learning resource for you, sageu.com. Create your free profile, and you can then complete our e-learning courses, online certification, and a range of bite-sized learning courses as well. So with that said, we will be wrapping up in the next few minutes. If you've got any final questions you'd like to ask us, do drop them into the Q&A now. If you'd like a copy of the slides, please do take this opportunity to download them. We've made a recording of today's session, so that will be on its way to you as part of the follow-up email arriving later this afternoon. And as you leave the webinar, when you click that exit button, we will invite you to take our webinar survey. So it'd be great to know what you thought of today's session. Any feedback that you might have is gratefully received. We do read all of the responses, and we use that to ensure that we're hitting the mark and to improve our webinars moving forward. So do consider just a moment of your time to complete that. I'm just going to go on to mute to just check on the questions. It looks like most of them have been answered, but I'll come back to you in a few moments when we are ready to close the webinar down. So I'll speak to you soon. Hello again, everyone. Thank you so much for those questions that were sent through, and thanks to Alice for answering all of those. I hope you found the answers helpful. We haven't had any new questions the last couple of minutes, so we are going to wrap things up there. I'll just take this final opportunity to thank you for joining us on today's session and the other sessions in our statutory payments webinar series. Don't forget, we've got plenty of other topics coming up, including payroll year-end webinars that are running throughout March and April. So have a look on our website, sage.co.uk/webinars, to see what you might want to sign up to. And a reminder on that survey, if you wouldn't mind completing that as you exit, we would very much appreciate that. But on behalf of myself and Alice and everyone here at Sage, thanks for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you at the quiz on Friday, hopefully. And it's goodbye for now.